Yo! I just wanted to catch back on some of the points which you made, which I didn't get to yet. First of all, you were saying you were like really sick and, you know, having to basically struggle to get through the day and falling asleep super early. I know that feeling. For me, I've had days where I was that sick. Not recently, luckily, but I also had when I was first moved to Singapore. Not that I was super sick like you were, but I was getting sick pretty much every 2 weeks with something like a flu or a throat thing, and it just didn't go away. And in my case, I don't know if I picked up something and it just stayed with me, but I feel like it was because I moved to a tropical climate and I was seeing a lot more people weekly than I was used to, because, you know, new job, new place, you know, and I think that's the shock that hit my body. So I'm not sure if something set me off or, you know, whatever, but I know being sick is just the worst. You know, yeah, at the same time, it's our body's defense mechanism to protect ourselves, so maybe it's a good thing too. But I feel for you, bro. Second thing you brought up, and I did touch on this in one other video a little bit, is Darren Brown's, you know, book on being happy. Yeah, I think we are trained in a way to be very future oriented, and I think in a way it's good. There's definitely good elements to thinking towards the future, but as in, for example, we want to prevent climate change, we have to think in a future mindset to avoid, you know, natural disaster and climate change catastrophe. But that being said, in our personal lives, it's a matter of balancing the experiences you have now, enjoying that to the fullest, reminiscing on things you had sufficiently to appreciate that and the friends and connections you made, but also looking towards the future. So essentially a balance is what's needed. And it's funny that even till today there's people writing about it, like Darren Brown. I mean, there's been so many authors who've written about it. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People mentions this. Let's see, Flow, which is another book, which I've mentioned before. Yeah, a lot of books mention this stuff. Yeah, do send me the book once you finish with that. I'd love to read it and just see what he has to say. Mental health, yeah. The thing you were saying about, you know, your bearded dragon, you believed it was a boy all this time, then it turned out to be a girl. It is indeed a very interesting way to look at it. If you think of someone who is chronically depressed or another, you know, mental illness, when we as people who don't have that problem kind of say to them, well, you know, maybe you should just get over it, or you know whatever, people react very poorly in general to mental health problems because they're not always visible. They're not like sicknesses where you can see the effects. Sometimes it's all up here, and I think that's hard for people to understand. And I do think, you know, having an experience like your bearded dragon suddenly giving birth to eggs and be like, what? But I thought, you know, you were a boy. It is. It's like a mind-bending thing, and it can be compared to you know, a psychotic person who thinks their reality is true. Yeah, it was a good point. I like that you brought that up. You mentioned armed police around the cathedral, and I agree. I don't think armed police especially are that helpful. I don't mind police presence, particularly, as in if they're just patrolling the area, keeping an eye out. It's not that it makes me feel safer, it's not that it makes me feel less safe, but if they're not armed, I just feel like they're there just to check out the neighborhood, in a way. Let me give you an example. So I was walking to the train here, the MRT, and I got to it, and this policeman approached me, and he was not armed, he was very friendly, and he said, hey, I'm just wondering if you've recently bought anything online. And I was with my sisters, and we were like, oh, no. He said, oh, do you live here? To my sisters, they were like, no, we don't, you know. But I said, yeah, I do. He said, well, we police are out here for preventing crime. And one of the ways that we like to prevent crime is by educating the people. And I was just like, yes, this is the job of the police and the government, is to help the people to help themselves. So he just told us a basic thing, which I already knew, but it's still good for other people. You know, oh, please avoid buying things online if the deal seems too good to be true. It probably is too good to be true. Be aware that you need to buy from reputable sites. You need to make sure that basically you need to use a lot of common sense when buying things online. We don't want people to get ripped off because you won't be able to get your money back easily, and we're here preventatively to tell you about this. And I was just like, that is to me what police and law enforcement should be doing, preventative measures. And it was a social, nice experience. He was so friendly, and I felt reassured by that. I was like, there's police out here helping people who might not know this. He's here to educate people. And at the same time, if something were to happen, he's also trained in self-defense and, but something they do in Scandinavian countries is all police actually get training in like mental health and how to disarm situations peacefully first. I think that's something that's really important to do. And I think, when it comes to protests and stuff like that, a lot of these protesters are peaceful. But a lot of them, even in the video you showed, start to shout things or whatever. And I think in any situation, a human can get aggravated and worked up, especially if you're a protester banging loud drums or shouting chants and stuff. That is making a statement. At the same time, I think protesters have to be careful to which degree they use loud noises and things like that to do their protest. I think they need to plan that and schedule that in a way that it makes the point but doesn't agitate the police who are also there for other citizens who maybe don't want to take part in that protest. So just some thoughts on it. I'm not sure what you think about that, but I agree that I don't know if having armed police around the cathedral is really going to help that much. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But one thing I love about Singapore is the only times you really see police around a lot, because people always say, oh, Singapore's so heavily policed and stuff like that. This is not true. In my experience, not at all. Big events, there's police everywhere. For example, New Year's night, there's police there. But only a few of them are ever armed, and most of them are helping you cross the street. They're cordoning off areas to help crowd control and manage the crowds. They're doing a lot of good stuff. And sometimes, yes, if you're drunk and disorderly behavior, then they'll take you. But they're taking you for your safety and the safety of others in that case. You know what I mean? They're not, and they won't just pin you down. They first observe, and they're trained to do that. And I think that is really the way it should be. Police should be there to help people cross the street at big, party events, to keep a presence in the way of looking out for people, but not per se with armed force first, but first with a caring attitude. And that's what I like about the police here. Most of them I've experienced as so helpful and cool. And police force is part of the national service here, so I feel like maybe that influences it a little bit. You got ordinary people also being with the police for just 2 years, and then they're done with their national service, and maybe that's not a bad idea either. You also mentioned 2016 being a crazy year. Yes, look, you got Brexit, you got Trump now, and I think people should be doing all they can to spread positivity, love, and goodness around as much as we can in times like these, because a lot of the negative things are happening are from misinformation and distrust of each other. I think we live in a more separated society, and we need to bridge that gap, not by ignoring each other, but by going into dialogue and helping each other and going for policies and causes, not for dogma and a he said, she said, which kind of the whole American election seemed to be. But it didn't focus that much on policies, really, and there was a lot of bad news circulation and a lot more smearing of the other person, when we should be focusing on what are their policies, what are they going to do for the world and for a country. And I think 2016 in that sense has been a bad year, not just from leaders, but also from people. I feel like people need to learn to not just talk about their causes, but actually do something. You know, try to stop climate change. I just saw Before the Flood, which is with Leonardo DiCaprio, his new documentary on climate change, and it blew me away. And it also made me think, okay, what am I going to do? So I actually am taking specific steps in my own life to reduce my carbon footprint. And I think more people need to do that. They don't just need to talk about it, they need to actually do things. For example, one of mine is to not have coffee unless I have my coffee cup, which means I'm using less plastic every week. Because otherwise, if I were to buy a coffee every day, that's 5 plastic cups, disposable plastic cups a week, which means I throw those away, they end up in the trash, etc. People need to do actions like that, small actions that make a big impact on a large scale. And I think it's possible. I think the recent changes and things that have been happening in the world are going to make people wake up and start to do things, good things, that will help everyone in the end. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on what you said. Hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry it's a bit long. Cheers.